best way to make your dreams come true is to wake up. Famous words from a famous man indeed, Muhammad Ali. And if you are watching this show, which means you are woken up, so let me first tell you good morning, Sri Lanka, which is indeed the name of the program. You are with me, Wasam Ismail, on MTV Sports on 7th of March, a beautiful Thursday morning indeed. Now we've come into the first week of March, and March is usually associated in Sri Lanka with the big match fever. And of course, if you've been around Colombo, you would have seen a lot of people, especially in school vans and other kids, waving around their flags, going around Colombo. You would have seen a lot of houses outside with their flags out, and of course I must tell you, the big match fever is indeed kicking in. Now what's best about the big match is it's not just about the kids who really get a thrive out of the whole event. It's actually also the old boys. And I must tell you, I know quite a few friends of mine and a few colleagues as well who've actually gone to the extent of changing their collar ringback tone into papare music to, of course, celebrate the overall big match rhythm. And of course, we've got some couple of interesting matches coming up during this weekend as well. And of course, on the 9th, we have the Joe Pete coming up, and you can of course watch it live on here on MTV Sports. And of course, I was told that on Saturday morning, the Peterites are going to have a parade, which is starting at 8 a.m., which will, I believe, start from King Ross Avenue all the way to the Premadasa Stadium. And of course, if you are planning to travel about on Saturday morning, just be aware of the traffic situation, for there probably will be quite a lot of traffic on the Marine Drive, around Duplication Road, and of course all the way towards the Premadasa Stadium. But of course, if you do get into the middle of it, I must tell you, I've seen the Peterite parade before, the vehicle parade before. You will see a lot of fancy cars and a lot of flags and a lot of boys cheering, and indeed it is a spectacle. And not only this match which is coming up on the 9th, we've also be showing the Anthony's versus Trinity match, which is on the 16th, live here on MTV Sports, so stay tuned to that. And also we have the Kingswood versus Dharma Raja on the 30th. So of course we've got big battles, as we call it here on MTV Sports. So 3 definitely big matches to look forward to. Also, when it comes to the big match, definitely there's like a lot of enthusiasm. We will find the occasional brawls here and there, and of course, hopefully this time we won't go too overboard like we did found reports earlier over the weekend, where it was on the news that the Ananda and Nalanda match went into quite a bit of a brawl, where the police had to actually come into the SSC stadium with tear gas. But of course, brawls at a big match is a normal thing, and boys will be boys, and it will always be a part of tradition and a part of entertainment. That being said, just very recently we heard a very miraculous piece of information, where in the United States of America, a baby was cured of HIV/AIDS. Now, AIDS is something, HIV and AIDS is something that scientists have been working on for years and years and years to find a cure. And will this miraculous finding, this miraculous event that took place, will it change global expectations for AIDS treatment? Watch this video.
A baby girl in Mississippi who was born with HIV has been cured after early treatment with standard HIV drugs.
Standard viral load tests showed an undetectable viral load at less than 20 copies per ml. And a repeat was drawn with the idea that perhaps this was a lab error. A repeat test done with 2 weeks later again showed less than 20 copies per ml.
More testing needs to be done to see if the treatment would have the same effect on other children, but the results could change the way high-risk babies are treated and possibly lead to a cure for children with HIV, the virus that causes AIDS.
Remains off of antiretroviral therapy and is doing well. So we believe that perhaps the initiation of very early antiretroviral therapy prevented the formation of the viral reservoirs in central memory CD4 T cells that are the barriers to cure, and really sets the stage for a pediatric cure agenda going forward.
And of course, yes, that was a little bit about the recent findings on that miraculous cure where a little baby was cured of HIV in the United States. Now, right here with me, I've got the latest report, latest global fact sheet, which was released by the UN on the World AIDS Day in 2012. And of course, because it was released back then, the latest figures are on 2011. So, on new HIV infections worldwide, 2.5 million people became newly infected with HIV in 2011, and 25 countries have seen a 50% or greater drop in new HIV infections since 2011. There has been a 42% reduction in new HIV infections in the Caribbean, which is the second most affected region in the world after sub-Saharan Africa. Half of all reductions in new HIV infections in the last 2 years have been among newborn children, showing that elimination of new infections in children is indeed possible. In 2011, new infections in children were 43% lower than in 2003 and 24% lower than 2009. However, progress is uneven. Since 2001, the number of people newly infected in the Middle East and North Africa increased by more than 35%. In Eastern Europe and Central Asia, there has also been an increase in new HIV infections in recent years. And when we talk about AIDS-related deaths, again in 2011, 1.7 million, which is 1.5 million to around 1.9 million estimated figures, people died from AIDS-related causes worldwide, where 24% fewer deaths than in 2005. Globally, there were more than 500,000 fewer deaths in 2011 and than in 2005 rather. The number of AIDS-related deaths declined by nearly 1/3 in sub-Saharan Africa between 2005 and 2011. The Caribbean experienced declines in AIDS-related deaths of 48% between 2005 and 2011, and Oceania in 41%. However, two regions experienced significant increase in AIDS-related deaths, Eastern Europe and Central Asia, which is 21%, and the Middle East and North Africa, which is 17%. Now, talking about miracles, there's another story which we'd like to drive you through, which is, of course, the death of Bobby Rogers, who is the co-founder of the band The Miracles. Check this out.
Bobby Rogers, a founding member of the Miracles singing group with Smokey Robinson, died on Sunday at his home in suburban Detroit after a lengthy illness, the Detroit Free Press newspaper said. Rogers, a member of the Motown group that was formed in the mid-1950s with Robinson, Ronnie White and Pete Moore, was a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and had a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Rogers died at his home in Southfield, Michigan. The Miracles had a string of hits including Tears of a Clown, Going to a Go-Go, You Really Got a Hold on Me, and Tracks of My Tears. Ronnie White died in 1995. Funeral arrangements for Rogers have not been set according to the newspaper.
Of course, that was a little bit about Bobby Rogers, who is the co-founder of the famous band The Miracles. And of course, this band wasn't really active during my time of life, but definitely I'm sure my parents would really grieve for the loss of Bobby Rogers, and they are into that kind of music. That being said, we're going for a short break, and we'll be right back here on Good Morning Sri Lanka, so stay tuned. Hello and a very good morning to all of you once again. If you just tuned in, you are watching Good Morning Sri Lanka with me, Wasam Ismail, on MTV Sports. And of course, before the break, we were talking a little bit about the big battles, which is the big match which is going on. And just to remind you that here at MTV Sports, we are going to show you a few matches live, starting with the Joe Pete, which is on the 9th of this month, which is obviously on Saturday. Now, of course, the thing with the Joe Pete is, in other matches, what you will see is that it's the test series, the 2-day or the 3-day matches that really is big for those schools. But with the Jopit, it's a whole different story. What they regard as the biggest match of the entire year is the 50 over indeed, and we at MTV Sports will be showing you the match live on Saturday, so do stay tuned for that. Now next up, we are going to show you a little bit of something on UK's Prince William, where he talks about combating the ivory trade. Check this out.
Britain's Prince William says more needs to be done to tackle the illegal killing of elephants and rhinos and the illegal trade of their ivory and horn. In a video message addressed to the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora.
There's many lesser-known plants and animals that warrant equal attention. As we enter 2013, the world's natural resources are under threat as never before. We know from the data and analysis presented to this meeting that the illegal killing of the African elephant and rhino and the related illegal trade in their ivory and horn has reached shocking levels in the past few years. Such threats are not confined to the African continent, with many Asian species now also coming under threat. We must do more to combat this serious crime if we are to reverse the current alarming trends. If not, we could soon see some populations of these creatures, or even an entire species, disappear from the wild. We simply must not let this catastrophe unfold. Our children should have the same opportunity that we have to experience wildlife in its many beautiful and varied forms. I recently had a chance to meet John Scanlon, your Secretary General, to discuss these issues. As we all work together, we can reverse these trends. We can make a difference. And what you decide right here in Bangkok will make that difference. At this crucial meeting, you will also consider many other important issues, including whether to bring additional timber species under CITES controls, as well as several sharks and rays. In doing so, you have the best available science before you to help inform your decisions. The Kingdom of Thailand has been characteristically generous in hosting this very special conference of the parties. If I may, I would like to wish all participants a highly productive and successful meeting. There will undoubtedly be differences of opinion from time to time, but I know that you are all bound by a common objective to ensure the survival of the planet's wildlife.
Well, I seriously hope that you did not fall asleep listening to Prince William. Well, Prince William is not the best of speakers out there when it comes to his charisma, especially when he does speak in front of an audience. Not the greatest of speakers, but definitely he was making a very important point on combating the ivory trade, and of course it was for a good cause. Now, drawing your attention to other political leaders worldwide, police in the tropical Indian Ocean resort archipelago of the Maldives arrested former President Mohammad Nasheed 10 days after he left the Indian High Commission, where he had taken refuge to avoid detention. A court had ordered police to arrest Nasheed after he missed a February 10th court appearance in a case relating to accusations that he illegally detained a judge during the last days of his rule. Nasheed, the Maldives' first democratically elected leader, left office last year in contested circumstances. He entered the Indian High Commission on February 13th and left 10 days later on the understanding that he would be able to conduct peaceful political activity. His supporters say he was ousted last February in a coup in the Maldives, a major tourist destination. They have clashed with police outside the diplomatic mission. If Nasheed is found guilty in the case, he could be barred from standing in a presidential election on September 7th.